So I'm gonna throw a Ludic ingredient at everybody. So these are social impact games. A lot of you have probably heard of these, or perhaps they've been called persuasive games, or games for change, or news games, or things like this. These are games that try to affect the learner's perspective about a certain topic. Might be in school or out of school. And so affect is a really tricky word. Like it could be helping or guiding, or thinking about, or learning about, or even like experience or inform or nudge or push or force. Um, these are really tricky, and there's a bunch of different examples. For example, like here are some real world games, like making recycling more fun by turning it into an arcade, or turning stairs into a piano to encourage people to take the stairs and exercise instead of taking the escalator. Lots and lots and lots of digital games, like experiencing being a reporter in Darfur, or experiencing what it's like to deal with immigration and border crossings, or Quandary, which is a really nice app, which I use with my kids, about sort of making ethical decisions and giving rationales. Lots of different examples, tons in health, ethics, environment, gender, civics, everything really, hundreds and thousands of them. There's a ton of lit on these as well. So there's the Games for Impact site, there's Games for Change, which is a conference that's been going on for like more than 10 years now. There's Values at Play, which is really good. How to Do Things by Bogost, Lindsay Grace at the American University, Jane McGonigal, Reality is Broken, like that WoW example comes from there as well. It makes sense, right? Like these are interesting. But does this actually make sense? Like the hype around GBLL and GBLT, there's a ton of hype about social impact games as well. On one hand, like do things, but on the other hand, there's this really great Paolo Perugini about making games in a fucked up world, because he's really looking at taking apart these social impact games, because if somebody's going to make a game, they want to measure the impact of that game. But then a lot of games become really narrow in order to measure that change, right? And so how do you measure something like protests or riots, right? And he's looking at sort of, you want the games to be broad and experiential, but how do you actually measure the impact of that? He's also really concerned about games as what he calls creepy behavior modification. Like if your game or technology really works, it freaks him out. Like if you've cracked the nut about how to influence people's minds or behaviors by a simple flash game, what the hell are you doing with that game, right? What's baked into that to make people? It's basically brainwashing, then, right? And also how a lot of these social impact games just cost so much to make, right? And they're rarely sustainable. People get a bunch of money, they make a game, they get a couple hundred or a couple thousand players, and then they're done, right? Which is really wasteful. And so Paolo Perugini has been trying to run these sort of game design camps, where instead of us making games for students, I think this connects to Tia and a bunch of other people in this talk, in this group, of empowering people to make games or anything to enact the change that they want, right? We as teachers and designers don't really need to make games anymore. We should be helping students make games for themselves and change their world in interesting ways. I think that's the way we can have real impact. Thanks, done.